could be a situation.
Buffy, what do we do?
Good evening, humans, and welcome to an Idiot Box, where we look at the highs and lows of our favourite media that can be viewed on a screen. My name's Samantha, and today we're looking at Buffy Season 2, released between 1997 and 1998. Now, Buffy Season 2 feels very much like a Season 2, and I know that sounds kind of counterproductive and very obvious, but it really does feel like it's learned and grown a lot since Season 1, and with nearly double the episode count, there's a lot to love in this season, and a lot of fans count it as their favourite one, especially when it comes to the main plot of this season, which focuses on new vampires, Spike and Drusilla, along with Angel. And yeah, the main plot of this season is pretty damn awesome, so I don't really want to get too much into it apart from mention that Angel is promoted to main cast in this season, along with some new introductions for some really fun characters. So let's get straight into Season 2. First up, we have When She Was Bad. Now, the plot of this episode is essentially like an epilogue to Season 1. The rest of the Master's cronies that were introduced last season, including the Anointed One, are trying to bring him back, and Buffy's not really coping with any of this, including her death. Essentially, PTSD Buffy is a different character from the normal Buffy in this episode, and it's really interesting to see. Seeing her decline from Season 1, seeing how much the events of Season 1 really messed her up, and how she's trying to cope with it is awesome. There's some really funny jokes in this one, such as a Bitka, which I reference all the time. It's so good. The new bad guy HQ with the warehouse is really great. The Anointed One gets a lot to do in this episode, and yeah, it's pretty solid. There are some moments which are a bit annoying, such as the characters constantly snapping at each other, but it serves the plot, so I'll forgive it. Yeah, 8 out of 10, it's a great start to the season. Episode 2, Some Assembly Required, is, in my opinion, a massively overhated episode. The storyline is essentially, what if Buffy did Frankenstein? And specifically, Bride of Frankenstein. I really liked seeing a much softer side to Cordelia throughout this episode. She shows so much more depth than anything she did in Season 1, and it's pretty good to see. There's some really good jokes and some kind of disturbing body horror in this episode as well, with Daryl the main, I guess, antagonist, aka our Frankenstein's monster for this episode, being a really cool design. I love his makeup and effects. I will state that some of the creepy aspects of this episode have not aged well, especially with some of the sexism and the way that the characters talk about it not really being acknowledged as, you know, creepy, only really joked about, which does make it stand out a bit, but overall, this episode is being slept on in my opinion. It's a good 7 out of 10, and I'd recommend people give it another shot. Episode 3, School Hard, is the turning point of this season. Instead of feeling like leftovers from the previous season, this is when Season 2 starts to fully accept its identity as a new era for the show. It introduces new antagonist Spike, who is immediately interesting to watch. It's someone who has killed 2 previous Slayers before Buffy, so you know just from that knowledge, this is a dangerous threat, and he attacks the school during a parents' evening. It is such a good one. I love seeing Cordelia being with the group more. I love her and Willow's little subplot of hiding in a closet. Joyce, Buffy's mum, gets a ton to do in this episode. Overall, it's really fun. The only problem really with it is that there's some really obvious stunt doubles in this one. But then again, seeing the ending where we find out that Principal Snyder knows about the Hellmouth and knows about demons sets up some really interesting things later on. So, it's a 9 out of 10, it's one of my personal favourites. Also check this one out. Episode 4, Inca Mummy Girl, is essentially the bug episode from the previous season, but done right. It's Universal's The Mummy continuing on from Bride of Frankenstein 2 episodes prior, but even more tragic than that film. And yeah, for the first time in the show, Xander's nice guy stuff gets actual plot relevance. It does get a little bit whiny at times, but overall I feel like this is a good improvement for Xander as a character. There's some brilliant comedy in this one with some incredible twists and drama overall. The mummy herself is one of my favourite designs in the entire show when she becomes full mummy. It's so creepy and perfect, and this is the first episode where we meet a character called Jonathan, officially. He was in the pilot episode, but let's not get into that. And also we get to meet Oz. So yeah, it's just solid. It's a good episode, 7 out of 10. I think it's enough when people are kind of unfair to be honest. Speaking of episodes I think people are unfair to, we have Reptile Boy, which is honestly, when it comes to its plot, one of the best looks at the dangers of frat culture that I've ever seen in a TV show. It does not pull its punches when it comes to some of the systemic issues that happens in universities and colleges, which I really appreciate, especially this being such a feminist show. Buffy is very overwhelmed in this episode, and I think that's really good for her character. She has a situation that she can't just punch and fight her way out of. I love that. Willow's outburst is also one of my favourite moments in the entire show, and is something I still quote to this day, so check it out for that alone. The villains themselves are kind of one note and feel a bit like that 2019 Black Christmas remake, which isn't good as they're not given any depth. But like I said, this is meant to kind of make a statement about frat culture, and it does that pretty well. I also like seeing more of Cordelia and Buffy's relationship, so 7 out of 10. It's good, just a bit dated. Now though, we get what is the highlight of this season, with Halloween. It is so fun. Essentially, whatever characters are dressed up as whatever, they then become that personality. For example, Xander dresses up as a soldier, he becomes a soldier. Buffy dresses up as a 17th century aristocrat and becomes one, no longer the Slayer. It is so fun. Angel gets so much to do in this episode, being more of the protector, like he goes on to be in his own spin-off show, which is great to see. There's some hilarious comedy in this episode, which is also very, very quotable, especially with Willow's outfit. And there's some really good horror moments too. Spike loves breaking the rules, so of course he's the main villain of this episode, which is, once again, only a positive from my opinion. There are no faults in the whole 45 minutes in my opinion. It's just solid. Go check this one out if you haven't already. It's probably one of the best episodes of Buffy, so 10 out of 10. Episode 8 Lie to Me, on the other hand, is an episode that should be a 10 out of 10, if not for one specific plot. So, as a story, it focuses on one of Buffy's old friends from LA moving to Sunnydale, and those two catching up. It's cool seeing so much of Buffy's past, and Ford is a very interesting character, just a bit wasted. The drama in this episode is really good. We get to look at the morality of the Vampire Slayer, and for people who want to be vampires. Are they actually evil, or is there a lot more to it when it comes to mental and physical health? The twist is great and foreshadowed pretty much perfectly. My only real issue with this episode comes down to Ford and the ending. Ford is a really interesting character who feels very much like Buck from the movie, but it isn't Buck. It's someone we've never met and has never been mentioned before, and we learn so much about this character, only for him to die at the very end. It feels kind of wasted, and with that, I can only give it an 8 out of 10. Episode 8, The Dark Age, is the most Giles-focused episode of the show thus far. We find out a lot more about his past when he was learning how to be a watcher in England, along with his kind of teenage rebellious phase, and the kind of people he made friends with back in those days. Throughout the episode, we also fully establish both Giles and Miss Calendar's relationship with each other, as there's been a will they won't they in the background throughout the rest of the show. It's so dark though as an episode. Apart from the cute little romance moments, the rest of it feels like the most horror we've had since Nightmares, and that is only a good thing. We also get to meet Ethan Rayne in this episode, who is my least favourite villain. He's just so fun to watch and so charismatic, despite the fact you want to punch this guy straight in the face. The only real issue I have with this episode is it feels like it was originally a two-parter again, but mashed into one, a bit like Prophecy Girl last season. It's still good though, it's still a solid 8 out of 10, definitely check it out. Speaking of two-parters though, we have our first of 3 two-parters this season, with What's My Line Part 1. This one is the most main plot we've had of the show thus far. It's all about Spike and Drusilla's plans coming together, with this one focusing on a trio of assassins going out to kill Buffy. It's really fun throughout. Kendra is introduced as well as a new vampire slayer since Buffy technically died at last season. So I love seeing a dynamic of 2 slayers. There's some amazing comedy moments, some really gross, buggy horror moments that I really hate, as they literally make my skin crawl. And it's just so fun. So much is set up in this episode, obviously to be resolved in the next one. But yeah, as a part 1, you can't really go wrong with this. The only real issue I have is the cliffhanger is so sudden. It feels like they cut an extra minute out of the episode, but it's still an amazing one, so 9 out of 10. Now it's time for What's My Line Part 2, and this is such a perfect follow-up and a good conclusion to the first half of this season's story arc, with Drusilla finally getting all her power back after she was injured before the show took place, and Spike now being in a wheelchair for the rest of this season. It's so good. The character moments in this one between Buffy and Angel, Buffy and Drusilla, Buffy and just everyone, as well as, of course, Xander and Cordelia, is so damn fun. The comedy in this one, also as perfect as the previous episode, the horror just as bug gross and terrifying, and the cop assassin in this one is probably the most disturbing since they're not a demon, they're just a normal assassin that works with these horrific creatures. The ending scene also sets up the rest of the season perfectly, and yeah, this is the perfect ending to the first half of a storyline. Solid 10 out of 10, no notes. Following on from the massive, explosive episode that was What's My Line Part 2, the next episode, Ted, takes it back to basics, and is probably the most sci-fi the show has gotten so far. It focuses on a new stepdad, essentially, for Buffy, who is dating Joyce, and Buffy just feels there's something up with him, and promises, fingers crossed, pinky promises, it's not jealousy. It is so good. I love seeing Buffy's smart side instead of just her brawn. It's a really good contrast to how she's been perceived throughout the rest of the show so far. The thriller elements of this one are perfect. It feels like a thriller from the 1990s. It fits in perfectly, and Ted as an antagonist is in my top 10 one-off villains, probably top 3. It's a bit short, I will say. I feel like the episode needed 5 more minutes, but apart from that, it's as good as you can get for Buffy. It is so creepy, so funny at times, and just great to watch. 9 out of 10, it's awesome. The start of the second half of this season though, we have magwayenxx, which is not great. I will stay at the possession angle of these little eggs being given to kids to show, responsibility, all that fun stuff in school, and the eggs ending up possessing people is really interesting. But the main problem with this episode is everyone's an absolute fucking idiot. No one notices people acting weird, even though everyone else can notice it in a second. The comedy is good, but a lot of it comes at the expense of the actual characters. The mother creature is really cool, but the vampires who appear in this episode are a lot more fun. Everything just feels so mixed. For every positive you can give magwayenxx, you can give like 2 negatives. It's very messy, and because of that I have to give it a 4 out of 10. I actually agree with the hate this episode gets. Sorry guys. Episode 13, Surprise. This one focuses on both Buffy and Drusilla's birthdays, which coincide on the same day because plot contrivance, but well, we'll go with it. There's a really big twist in this episode revolving the character of Miss Calendar, and honestly, it puts a lot of her previous episodes into a completely different light. The best kind of drama that this show can do, which, yeah, it's really solid, on all honesty, with the Judge itself being a new antagonist introduced in this two-parter, and it is terrifying, probably one of the most powerful villains that's been introduced thus far in Buffy. I do have one massive gripe with this episode though personally, and it's how conveniently the group find the arm of the Judge, which, yeah, it feels very much like a contrivance, not overly explained, it's just a really lucky coincidence. But it ends on probably one of the most shocking cliffhangers in the entire show, and because of that on its own, it has to be an 8 out of 10. The second part of this two-parter with Innocence is such a shift in tone for the entire show. In this one, we finally meet Angelus, who is Angel's previous version, back before he had a soul, and in all honesty, David Boreanaz does such a good job going from Angel to Angelus. It is so brilliant seeing how different these two characters actually are. The drama in this episode is possibly the best the show has done so far, and it has one of my personal favourite moments, which I quote all the time with this show, which is the moment where Buffy pulls out a rocket launcher to kill the Judge, because no weapon forged can kill him. But that was then, and this is now. It is such a perfect episode, setting up the rest of this season and concluding a much darker first half for this show. Honestly, it's amazing. 10 out of 10, no notes. After the incredible high stakes of the previous two episodes, we go more back to a Monster of the Week style story, this time finally having werewolves introduced into the show, and it is so much fun. I've always had mixed feelings on werewolves, but the original The Howling is one of my personal favourite horror movies, so seeing a werewolf in Buffy always brings a little smile to my face. This episode also focuses heavily on Willow and Oz's relationship, which has grown quite substantially from when he was introduced. There's some great drama throughout, some really funny comedy, and I'm just going to spoil the twist, Oz is the werewolf. So there's some really funny parallels with puberty compared to being a werewolf, which I enjoy, and it's just solid. The Hunter character does feel a bit unneeded, but I get why he's there for stakes reasons. But the ending of this episode is so sudden, it almost feels like a scene was cut, which is a shame, but otherwise, it's another solid one, 7 out of 10. Episode 15, Bewitched, Bothered and Bewildered, and oh boy, this episode is so damn fun. It is ridiculously cheesy and follows Xander, who accidentally puts a love spell on everyone else whilst trying to get Cordelia to realise, yeah, she does love him even if her friends ostracize her for it. There is a little bit of weirdness with the whole using a love spell on your ex just to make her feel jealous, but the backfire really helps shine. It shows how much Cordelia actually does care for Xander, even if she wants to try and still be the popular girl. The episode itself is hilarious, seeing so many characters we love, like Buffy, Willow, and Joyce, randomly being obsessed with Xander is hilarious. And I also love the fact there's no real antagonist in this episode. It's just a dumbass teenage boy whose own ideas bounce back on him. It's just so fun. Honestly, it's one of my personal favourites, 9 out of 10. Jumping back into the main plot, we have episode 17, Passion, which is the perfect escalation to the ongoing storyline with Angel/Angelus. Miss Calendar's story throughout this episode of trying to redeem herself to the Scooby group and get back together with Giles is really good, really solid, perfect drama throughout the entire thing. Angelus really starts to show his more sadistic side, which had only really been hinted at previously, and the ending of this episode, honestly breaks my heart. There's a moment about 30 minutes into the episode which really shows how much Buffy has matured as a TV show compared to season 1. It shows how much darker season 2 is in all the best possible ways, and like I said, the whole ending with Giles and Buffy and the two of them holding each other as father and daughter, it breaks my heart. It's a 10 out of 10 again. God, this season is good. That being said, however, all good things must come to an end, and we have the start of what I call the failure trilogy of this season, starting off with Killed by Death. It's essentially a Nightmare on Buffy Street. It's just a Nightmare on Elm Street styled episode, like the previous ones with Frankenstein and mummies, but this one I don't think nails it. The kid actors in this episode are honestly really bad at times. No blame to the kids. Some kid actors are incredible, and some of them are terrible, and a lot of it, in my opinion, comes down to the directors of these kids being able to get the emotions needed out of them. It is a very horror episode, but it's also really slow. The Freddy knockoff is boring as hell. I mean, they didn't even try to hide that it's a Freddy Krueger knockoff. He still wears a fedora, and the episode feels about twice the length it is. I know this episode has a lot of fans because it looks into Buffy's history and her trauma, but I do not like this one at all. I think it's an absolute mess, so 4 out of 10, another one of my controversial opinions. Speaking of a controversial opinion, I Only Have Eyes for You is, in my opinion, one of the worst episodes of the entire show. It focuses on a student and teacher having a relationship back in the 1950s, and the student ends up killing the teacher. But, I will state, I don't like the way any of the characters handle this situation. Buffy completely excuses the teacher for being a groomer and a paedophile. The drama between Buffy and Angel is good, and has some good parallels with the relationship of this teacher and student, but the villain of this episode is literally just a sexually abused child. It's someone who had a teacher groom them, abuse them, and then dump them when they got bored of them. If the roles were reversed, this story would be very different tonally, with a lot of characters being a lot more empathetic to a teenage girl compared to a groomed teenage boy. I do think it's a product of its time, and there are some really good moments in it between Buffy and Angel, but otherwise, this is just a groomer's fantasy, so 3 out of 10. It's bad. Sorry, guys. And last but only just not least, emphasis on the only just, we have Go Fish, which is essentially about the Sunnydale swim team, and the boys are turning into fish boys. It's very weird. It does keep in line with the show because it still keeps it all about the Hellmouth and demonic-y shit, but otherwise, yeah, all the swim team guys are just kind of dicks. I don't care if they die/turn into fish monsters, because they're all horrible to watch. Even Wentworth Miller, who I love as Michael Scofield in the incredible Prison Break, he can't save this. There are some good horror vibes, especially towards the end of the episode, and I do actually like the design of the fish boys, but overall the episode just feels very generic, like it wants to say something about this kind of frat culture like previously in the episode, but doesn't even have half the balls that episode tried to do, so it ends up just feeling generic. So 4 out of 10, it's not a great end to this little trilogy. Quote, another famous quote, we have, "It's always darkest before the dawn," and that is so damn true with Becoming Part 1. We see so much of Angelus/Angel in this episode. All of his past basically gets brought back up. We see him during the time he was turned into basically a half-human because of his soul, and it is so good to see. I love all the scenes of the gang fully coming together, including Kendra, which is once again great to see her again, and it is a perfect mix of horror, comedy, and drama, which is exactly what I expect from this show. It is so damn good, with Angelus and Drusilla's plans being brilliantly evil and the most over the top in the best possible way that this show has done yet. The cliffhanger is also heartbreaking as hell. You don't know what the hell to expect for the next episode. It literally tears your guts out no matter how many times you watch it, so 10 out of 10. Perfect start to this finale. Our final episode of Season 2, we have Becoming Part 2, which is such an incredible conclusion to this story arc, with all the stuff with Drusilla, Spike, and Angelus coming full circle. Spike's turn onto the sort of good side, emphasis on the sort of, is really well built up, with a lot of animosity between himself and Angelus bubbling so much that, yeah, it makes sense that he helps out Buffy this one time. There is so much drama in this episode which really brings to light the emotions of these characters and how much they've grown since the very first episode of the show. And a Cathlar's Portal is an incredible threat, dragging the entire world into a hell dimension. Yeah, brilliant way to conclude this story arc. But there is one massive problem with this episode, and that is Xander. He is so whiny, so complaining, and just an overall dick in this episode that it really made me dislike him as a kid. I'm glad that they course correct with his character, because since he's that annoying, I can only give this episode a 9 out of 10, which is really annoying. And that was Buffy Season 2. A lot of people's favourite seasons, but not mine personally, just because of what I nicknamed the Terrible Trilogy. But overall, a massive step up from Season 1. And like I said in the previous one, in my opinion, Season 1 actually gets a lot of negative rap which it doesn't deserve. It's a solid first season, but this one looks at all the issues of the first season and finds ways to fix it. Sometimes it is just a little band-aid, while sometimes it's a complete reinvention in the best possible way. I love seeing the group expanded on in this season. We get a lot more of Angel before he turns into Angelus. Oz joins the group, Miss Calendar finally gets a proper storyline. It's so much of an improvement that I'm just going to be saying improvement a lot during this bit. Improvement, 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 because that's what this season does. It does everything that people wanted it to do, with double the episode count, which is honestly insane. Twice as much work to do, but improving it tenfold. There is, like I said, that Terrible Trilogy, and some of the episodes at the start of the season are a bit wobbly, but when it gets into its stride, this season is the best of Buffy, whilst also simultaneously sometimes being the worst. It's kind of mixed towards the end, but like I said, this is a lot of people's favourite season, and a lot of it is due to the story arc, which is, in my opinion, the second best in the entire show. I will get to the best in, let's see, 1, 2, 3 more videos. So, spoiler alert for those who've already clocked that it's Season 5's my personal favourite. It's just solid. There's not much else to say about Season 2. It's just solid. Definitely go check it out. Don't skip Season 1, but if you're finding yourself not overly loving the first season, just you wait, don't you worry, because Season 2 has got your back. But, of course, massive success for Season 2, even bigger viewing figures than Season 1, could only lead to one thing. Season 3. I'll see you all there next time. Toodles!